Hello and welcome. You are here with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and I thought I would do something fun this evening. I've kind of been spending the day playing with my hair, having a lot of fun with that, obviously, and kind of thinking about the direction the channel's going to go. So excited to talk about something I've never talked about on this channel before. Uh, I've been inspired by dragons lately, so I thought, why not talk about Dungeons and Dragons, something that I really have always wanted to get into, and I have the handbook here, and we're going to talk about it, and I want to know, like, what your D&D character is, and I can tell you what mine is. I built a character, I just never played, and we can talk about all kinds of stuff, so I thought that would be fun, and then we also have scary stories to tell in the dark if we get bored. Hello, Kitty, nice to see you. Thank you. Yeah, it's like inspired by like Minnie Mouse, you know, because I have the 3 on top of my head, right? Minnie Mouse and, what was the other thing I said? Darkpool will have to tell me. I can't remember what my, like, inspiration was, but, yeah, definitely Minnie Mouse. Big. Elsa Mars, I think that's the other side of it too. I'm really trying to like do more pinup styles and just wear my nice clothes and have a good day. Hey Paris, it's nice to see you. Living Out Loud is here. Yay! Welcome everyone. So is anybody that's here in the room right now ever played Dungeons and Dragons? Or what do you know of Dungeons and Dragons? I know that they're bringing it back, like talking about it in Stranger Things, and you know, that's the kind of the whole premise of the movie, the show. Brittany, it's so nice to see you. Welcome. Don't worry, we're gonna make talking about Dungeons and Dragons fun, because when I was a kid in the 80s, when it was like really popping, because I do believe that in the early 80s is when Dungeons and Dragons came out, and this is what we're talking about, and I know everybody's heard of it. This is the current handbook, or it was 2 years ago when I was building my character. These books are about $50, and yeah, $50. In Canada, they're 60. Everything's expensive there. But it's so cool on the inside, and if you've never looked at the inside of one of these books, I'm going to show you some of the pictures. They're amazing, and it's really cool. Like if you are into like the Fae and dragons and fantasy type stuff, I think you will really like what Dungeons and Dragons might have to offer. So I've never played it before, like I say, and then when we're done talking about that, we will be reading some scary stories, and then I will tell you, I watched the movie, and I didn't finish it, but I watched the first half and I own it, so I will talk about that movie as well that came out this August. So that's going to be exciting. But how is everybody this evening? How is everybody doing? I know it's kind of dinner time for a lot of people, or across the pond it's nighttime. So I'm interested to see what kind of audience I get. It'll be fun. Alright, here we go. Let's talk. Should we do scary stories first or Dungeons and Dragons? You tell me. And if you like scary stories, Kitty, then do tell me your favorite one and I'll read it to you. Just finished dinner? Great. Excellent. I've got my dinner cooked and it's ready to eat when I'm done. I don't like to eat things that are super hot. If I get food at a restaurant, I take a couple of bites and I bring it home. But that might have to do with the fact that I don't like eating in public as well. Thanks, Scotty. So what should we do? Scary stories? Hey, Wicked Willow, nice to see you. You changed your name. It's great to see you. Same picture, though. I know who you are. Is there a lady with the necklace? The lady with the necklace. I don't think so. Not in these books. I have all 3. And I know them by heart. Well, I couldn't recite them. Are you sure it's called The Lady with the Necklace? Because I can't think of a story with the lady with the necklace. Hello, Uncle Badger. It's so good to see you. Do you like my Minnie Mouse hair? I had fun playing with this morning. So, where her head falls off. That's in a different book. That book is called... These are called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and that is the scariest story I've ever read, and I read it when I was 6 years old. It was in my library when I was in kindergarten. And if anybody finds that book, you better send me a copy or a link to how I can get that book. Now, the name of the book, On the front of the cover is a drawing, and it's a drawing of that story. And I think it's called The Ribbon. And the girl's name is Jennifer. That's what always like really tripped me out when I was little, was that the girl's name was Jennifer. So it really felt like, you know, it hit home when you're 6 years old reading a story about that. But let me tell that story, because I know it from memory and it's not word for word. But Kitty, I'm so glad you brought it up. The book is called Scary Stories Told in the Dark, or something. Like, the wordage is barely different. And if I remember, I'm going to go onto Thrift Books and try and look for it. So I would like to tell that story right now. And in the time that I tell that story, I'm not going to be able to look at comments. So you guys could talk to each other, but if you want me to see something, just wait. So all right. There is a young boy named, I can't remember his name, but maybe let's call him Bill. No, there's a young boy, let's call him Joey. That's just a random name. So Joey and Jennifer meet one day in their youth and immediately fall in love. For the rest of their, and they go to prom together, and they get married, and they have a lovely life. In the meantime, since the day he met her, Jennifer's been wearing this red ribbon around her neck, and she never ever takes it off. And Joey always asks her, like, what's the ribbon for? And she always tells him, one day I'll tell you, one day I'll tell you, or one day you'll find out, which is really creepy on its own. So they live their lives, you know, and she always has the ribbon around her neck. And one day when they're old and gray, Jennifer's on her deathbed and Joey's taking care of her. And she passes away, and he takes off the ribbon because he's dying to know, and her head falls off. So the whole time, okay, here's the thing with that story. Was he dating a ghost posing as a human? Or was she like a living corpse zombie? I mean, what is this? But I love those types of stories because the way it ends, your psychological mind is like all over it, you know, absorbing everything you can. Like, what is going on here? What do you guys think? Do you think she was a ghost and dead? Or do you think she was just a woman with a dysfunction? You know, she could eat and talk and sing as long as that ribbon was on her neck holding her head on. Brittany remembers that one. Thanks, Lola. It's great to see you. Thank you. I'm like I say, if I'm feeling good, you guys will see me. And I'm excited for the evolution of the channel. Still, of course, keeping with witchcraft, but evolving into more of my other things that I do that have been consuming my time mostly. So it sounds like Thomas may have found it. I love the ghost stories. Oh, M.R. Kames and Arthur Machen are my favorite. Takisha, hi, nice to see you. So glad you were able to join us. Maybe some kind of curse. Oh, see, I wouldn't have thought of that in my younger days. I love that. I love that. Oh, Joyce Jordan, thank you so much. I have some lovelies. See, from this side, it looks very, very pin-up if you just see it from the side. But I think when you get to the front, it looks more circus, which I was really going for circus. Well, like slash pinup, you know. Did y'all know that I used to do pinup competitions in my younger days? Like age 24 to 27, I was doing pinup competitions, and my name was Miss Rose Bentley, and I was a school teacher. That was my, like, when you do competitions, you have to have, like, your character have a profession or something like that. So mine was school teacher. And when I dig out those pictures, because my dad's got them, when I dig out those pictures, I'll show them to you guys. It's really cool. Either way, you killed it. You look stunning. Thanks, Liz. It's great to see ya. I never won one, but once I got third place. I was always so enamored with the other costumes. Like, girls would get really creative. And what's also really fun about pinup competitions is they're often paired right up with classic car shows, and they'll go on at the same time, and then you can take pictures with cars, and everybody fawns around you. You know, everybody wants to hang out with a living, breathing woman from the 30s and 40s. So I just think that that's cool, and I thought I'd tell you guys. I know I've probably mentioned it once or twice. But like I say, the channel's evolving into where I can talk about myself more and bring myself out for you guys to see. That's what I'm excited about. So here we are. I think not too many people are excited about the Dungeons and Dragons, but if you are, raise your hand so I know. We'll do Dungeons and Dragons last, and we'll do scary stories first. It doesn't matter to me how it goes. And if any of you know, like some really good books for me to look into to get started, and like an intro to draconic magic, I would love that. What did Thomas say? Jen, what about this? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Alvin Schwartz. That sounds right. No, that's what we're reading. These are what we're reading, Alvin Schwartz. So it's going to be the other author. So Katie R. likes Dungeons and Dragons. Fantastic. What is your character, if you don't mind sharing? I think mine was Wood Elf, because there's two kinds of elves that you can choose, and I do believe that my final choice was Wood Elf. And I think the reason was because they work with animals, and they're like really commune with nature and animals, and they're like telepaths with animals kind of thing. But I'm going to show you the book. It's just so fun. Oh yes, there are 3 of those. Correct. And I have all 3 here, Thomas. So the one we're looking for has a different author, and I believe it came out in the early 80s or late 70s, because I was reading it in 1988. You've only heard about D&D but never played it. And Paris, I've never played it either, but about 2 years ago, my brother, like, he's a dungeon master apparently, and that's the person who like runs the game. And if you've seen Stranger Things or Big Bang Theory, you've seen them play like D&D, which is cool. And also they play it in Young Sheldon, but Mary Cooper's always like, that game is the devil, you know, which it's just cool because it's like all these fantasy things. If you guys remember those old Choose Your Own Adventure books, where you're reading and then you get to the end of the page and it says, you can either jump the river or go back. If you jump the river, go to page 33. If you go back, go to page 76. And every time you read the book, if you make different choices, it'll end differently, which I think is really awesome. Get my brother to do one on here. My brother is a dick. He would never do that. I wish, though. I have one brother who's awesome and one brother who's, well, I take that back. He hates cameras and he would never, ever go on camera. So, I guess I'm the one in the family that doesn't mind having my face out there. I love D&D and agree with Uncle Badger. What did Uncle Badger say about the D&D? Jen, you should run a Dungeons and Dragons thing on here. I would love to do that. But see, the thing is I have to learn how it goes. But it would be so fun. Oh my gosh! Is anybody out there doing that? Are there any live YouTube channels that do Dungeons and Dragons where the YouTuber is the dungeon master? Let's look into that. Because if there's not, then I bet we could evolve a pretty cool channel doing that once a week. Holding a session once a week. That would be amazing. I'd have to get a laptop, or fix my laptop. So, I feel like we should read a story. Kitty, why don't you pick another story from the Scary Stories book? Any of them. 1, 2, or 3. And if any of you guys have seen the Scary Stories movie, do say so, because I would like to chat about that at some point. When I heard it was coming out, I was overjoyed, overly excited. It was crazy amazing. Or do a Dungeons and Dragons campaign on here. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, make a campaign, a live campaign. And Liz says, please. So, there's people that would be down with that? Okay, so we have Liz Nicole, who's down for, like, so, I'm gonna get a Dungeon Master's book then, you guys, because but for those of you who want to play, you do probably need to at least have your character established and have a player's handbook. I don't care what you have, but this is a tool that helps you get through the game and understand the game. And if you read this book from front to back, it will take 3 days because there's a lot in there to understand. You'll get the game. As the Dungeon Master, there's books I can buy to create campaigns. And so I would love that, because that's a really great outlet for my creativity, is to create campaigns. And I really like that. I'm so excited. So if I can learn it, I'll do it. Kitty, did you pick a story, darling? And I will read you guys a scary story, and then we'll talk about it. $20-sided die. I mean, who doesn't like a 20-sided dice? It tells about the dice, how to play, the 20D, there's a bunch of different dice, and so you have the intro, and it talks about the wonders of magic and who started the game, etc. Then you go into part 1, where it's the creating a character, and there's different, and once you create a character, then there's just all these, it's so creative, it's so fun, and nowhere on this book does it say the devil. I don't know why people think it's satanic to play Dungeons and Dragons, you know. And then yeah. Alright, so do we have a scary story chosen, or shall I just choose one myself? Now, if you guys have the old copies of the book, oh, I have to say this. This is an educational channel. We are learning things here. We're learning about D&D. We're learning about scary stories. And as an educational channel, I may read from these books because I don't monetize my videos. Okay? I don't make money from my videos. If y'all want to support the channel, you go to Patreon, and I don't read in those videos. Okay? So, as long as I don't read 4 pages in a row, I'm okay with copyrights. And for those of you who have a YouTube channel, maybe that will help you as well understand what you can and can't do. So, okay, I guess it's up to me. This is the first book, okay, and this is the old covers. Now, I think my niece has them, my other 2 Scary Stories books, 2 and 3, so I went and repurchased them not too long ago. Oh, look, there's a witch. It's Addie Fitch. Now, these are the new covers, okay? But it's the same book, whether you have a cover that looks like this or like these. Same. And they're dirt cheap. These were $7 each. And in Canada, $85, I'm sure. $8.50. That's funny. So yeah, not expensive at all, and you find them in the kids section of Barnes & Noble. Or you can ask the person at Barnes & Noble, and they will root you in the right direction. Root. Okay, moving along. I'm going to choose a story unless Kitty chose one. Oh, I wasn't even on the thing. I apologize. Hey, Gypsy Lee, it's so good to see you. Welcome. Jez is here. Welcome. Thank you. Couldn't remember her name, so I had to look one up. Gypsy. Hi, Shadow Witch. Everybody is here. We're having so much fun. Miss Fox. Hello. Thank you, Sophie. I'm loving it too. It's making me happy. What was the name of the Brittany says, what was the name of the story of the man that stayed in the cabin and something tried to get him and his dogs? Let's talk about that, because this is really cool. In each book, there's a story about a black dog. And that's kind of the only thing that really reoccurs in these books. I want to say hello to Irma, who I don't think I've seen on here. Welcome, Irma. Love your new hair. Love that you are so real. I'm new. I've been binging your videos. Everybody, please welcome Irma to the Taxidermy Witch family, because now you're a family member. And we all love you very much. Come back as often as you can. I did a YouTube analysis, and if you started watching my videos today, because I have almost 1,000, if you started, and I've been on YouTube for 1.5 years, if you started watching my videos today, and you put them on repeat, it would take 4 months to watch them from start, like all of them. That's how much content I have out there. So when I take 5 days break or something like that, I don't feel so bad because there's tons of content to be watched. All right, so let us tell a story, and let me find the black dog story kind of in each book, and we'll go through that way, and we'll start with those stories. If you came just for the Dungeons and Dragons, you might want to check back in a little bit. Yay, everybody, welcome to Irma, big hugs, that's fantastic. We're all about everything. Oh, cool, if we get the live campaign going, Thomas. Yeah, so Jez, you'd be into that too? A live D&D campaign where I did the dungeon mastering? I'm gonna guess, you guys, it'll take me like 3 months if I start getting into it. It'll probably take me like, well, if I really get into it, it'll take me a month. But all I need is the newest Dungeon Master book, and I think I can go. Or I'll just call my brother and say, what do I need to do to be a Dungeon Master? Like, what do I need to get accomplished? Or if you guys know, tell me, because I'd rather not call. Alright, so we're talking about... there's a story in here called A Man Who Lived in Leeds. And as a little girl, I had no idea what Leeds was, but now I know. It's a place in the UK. Up north, isn't it, Thomas? Old woman, all skin and bone. Where is the black dog? We'll find it. Maybe it's just in the last two. I remember the guy's name was Billy. Billy something. Oh, you know what? I don't have part 2. I just have 2 copies of part 1. And then part 3. I can't believe I never realized that that's what happened. But the black dog story is in part 3. So let me go ahead and read that to you. And then after we're done reading the stories, we can talk about like what we think is really going on there. Because I'm sure most of you who have read these in your past, like we just talked about with that other scary story I told, what the heck was with the ribbon? And yes, Leeds is a northern English town. Ding, ding, ding! I got it! Is it near Luton? Luton. So, the black dog, page 17 of the first section, When Death Arrives. Page 17. There is also another black dog story in book 2, which apparently I do not have. Okay, the black dog. Ready? It was 11 o'clock at night. Peter Rothberg was in bed on the second floor of the old house where he lived alone. It had gotten so chilly he went downstairs to turn up the heat. As Peter was on his way back to bed, the dog ran down the stairs. A black dog. It passed him and disappeared into the darkness. "Where did you come from?" Peter said. He had never seen this dog before. He turned on all the lights and looked in every room. He could not find the dog anywhere. He went outside and brought in the 2 watchdogs he kept in the backyard, but they acted as if they were the only dogs in the house. The next night, at 11 o'clock, Peter was in his bedroom. He heard what sounded like a dog walking around in the room above him. He dashed upstairs and threw open the door. The room was empty. He looked under the bed. He looked in the closet. Nothing. But when he got back to his bedroom, he heard a dog running down the stairs. It was the black dog. He tried to follow it, but again he could not find where it had gone. From then on, every night at 11, Peter heard the dog walking in the room above him. Every night at 11? That's interesting. The room was always empty, but after he left, the dog would come out of hiding, run down the stairs, and disappear. I'm just saying, like, if that happened to me, if that was my situation, I would be freaking out. I would stay at my mom's. Alright. The room was empty. He looked under the bed. He looked in the closet. Nothing. But when he got back to his bedroom, he heard the dog running down the stairs. It was the black dog. He tried to follow it, but again, he could not find it anywhere. From then on, every night at 11, Peter heard the dog walking in the room above him. The room was always empty, but after he left, the dog would come out of hiding, run down the stairs, and disappear. One night, Peter's neighbor waited with him for the dog. At the usual time, they heard it above them. Then they heard it on the stairs. When they went out into the hall, it was standing at the foot of the stairs looking up at them. And then there's a little bit of a picture. And it's cool. I've always wanted to get a tattoo of some of these drawings. Not this one, but some of them. There's this, like, faint shadow of a black dog. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. The neighbor whistled and the dog wagged his tail. Then it was gone. Things went on this way until the night Peter decided to bring his watchdogs into the house again. Maybe this time they would find the black dog and drive it away. Just before 11, he took them up to his bedroom and left the door open. Then he heard the black dog moving around above him. His dogs pricked up their ears and ran to the door. Suddenly, they bared their teeth and snarled and backed away. Peter could not see the black dog or hear it, but he was sure that it had entered his room. The dogs barked and snapped. They darted forward nervously and then backed away again. Suddenly, one of them yelped. It began bleeding, then dropped to the floor, its neck torn open. 1 minute later, it was dead. Peter's other dog backed into a corner, whimpering. Then everything was still. The next night, Peter's neighbor came back with a pistol. To shoot the ghost dog? Okay. But yeah, that's what men do. They come back with pistols, don't they? Where am I? As before, again they waited in his bedroom. At 11 o'clock, the black dog came down the stairs. As before, it looked up at them and wagged its tail. When they started toward it with the pistol, it growled and disappeared. That was the last Peter saw of the black dog, but it did not mean that the dog was gone. Now and then, always at 11, he heard it moving around above him. Once he heard it running down the stairs. He never managed to see it again, but he knew that it was always there. So, this story creeps me out because I feel like it's scary because it's not a human spirit. You know, the fact that it's a canine spirit, that, you know, and that's interesting to me. Okay, Sophia, have a beautiful night. His wife claimed... Hold on, Thomas is busting out with some comedy. Let's see what he says. Hey, Butterfly Magic with hot tea. It's so nice to see you. Welcome. His wife climbed into bed beside him. I locked the back door, she said. He felt a cold sweat run down his spine. His wife had died a year ago. Oh, good one, Thomas. Yes, and it hurt his dog. Was there a story of a girl driving a car inside? Yeah, high beams. Here we are. And that was one I wanted to read, too, because it's a true story. There's a few... Well, I mean, obviously things like that happen every day, but here we go. High beams. Flip right to it. High beams. It's a great little story. But before we start that, like, what do we think the dog was? Was it just a spirit? Was it all in Billy's head? Was it some energy the house was creating? Because his neighbor saw and heard it too, so I guess it couldn't have been all in his head. Yeah, everybody should dig their old Scary Stories books out, because they're so short and they're so fun, and you just have such a good time with them. Kitty says, I know the black dogs are supposed to be a death omen. There you go. I didn't know that. That's fantastic. And there's probably a lot of pagan symbolism in these books, I would imagine. Or just symbolism in general. So let's take the time to now read High Beams. Before I start, I want to say, I think... Okay, the one in book 2 that we're missing, it talks about a black dog, and it talks about this guy named Billy. And every place he went, he saw a black dog, like outside. Every place he went. There'd always be black dog hairs on his bed, in his food. Everyone in town thought he was flippin' nuts. And that's kind of like the basics of the other black dog story that I remember. Black dogs are sometimes protective spirits buried into the foundations of medieval buildings to protect the place. See, I think that's fascinating. That's so fascinating. Thomas, thank you for adding that in. And if anybody has any more things to add in, please do. It's so fun to chit chat. So here we go, high beams. The girl driving the old blue sedan was a senior at the high school. The first sentence to all these books make me laugh really hard. Because they're just so like, it feels like it started in the middle of the story. Well, I think it's just like if you randomly see a black dog like the Grim Reaper in Harry Potter. Or I think that's what that said. The girl driving the old blue sedan was a senior at the high school. She lived on a farm about 8 miles away and used the car to drive back and forth. She had driven into town that night to see a basketball game. Now she was on her way home. As she pulled away from the school, she noticed a red pickup truck follow her out of the parking lot. A few minutes later, the truck was still behind her. I guess we're going in the same direction, she thought. She began to watch the truck in her mirror. When she changed her speed, the driver of the truck changed his speed. When she passed a car, so did he. Then he turned on his high beams, flooding her car with light. If you're someone who doesn't drive, it makes it like, it blinds you because you have your rearview mirror, and it's like right in your eye. He left them on for almost a minute. He probably wants to pass me, she thought, but she was becoming uneasy. Usually she drove home over a back road. Not too many people went that way, but when she turned into that road, so did the truck. I've got to get away from him, she thought, and she began to drive faster. Then he turned on his high beams again. After a minute, he turned them off, and then he turned them on again and off again. She drove even faster, but the truck driver stayed right behind her. Then he turned on his high beams again. Once more, her car was ablaze with light. What is he doing? She wondered. What does he want? Then he turned them off again, but a minute later he had them on again, and he left them on. At last she pulled into her driveway, and the truck pulled in right behind her. She jumped from the car and ran into the house. "Call the police!" she screamed at her father. Out in the driveway she could see the driver of the truck. He had a gun in his hand. When the police arrived, they started to arrest him, but he pointed to the girl's car. "You don't want me," he said. "You want him." Crouched behind the driver's seat, there was a man with a knife. As the driver of the truck explained it, the man slipped into the girl's car just before she left the school. He saw that happen, but there was no way he could stop it. He thought about getting the police, but was afraid to leave her, so he followed her car. Oh, chills. Each time the man in the back seat reached up to go overpower her, the driver of the truck turned on his high beams. Like, okay, does this woman not sense energy at all? Because really, if there's somebody that's right behind you, like, you'll feel it. If somebody's about to punch you and you're asleep, you'll wake up. I mean, there's things that your body, if you're, like, in tune with yourself, it should be reacting that way. I just think that's interesting. So each time the man in the backseat reached up to overpower her, the driver of the truck turned on his high beams. Then the man dropped down, afraid someone might see him. Chilling. Such good stuff, Yeah, it's spooky. Story time is so good. So good. The next one, I think we'll just go right in order. Wait, is this going to be 4 pages in a row? 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. I'll read that one later. Is there another one that somebody wants to hear? We just can't hear the babysitter right now, because then I'd be reading 4 pages in a row. So, from book 1 or 3, any stories you want to hear? Otherwise, I will just randomly choose a one that I love. Also, you guys, in the back of these books, it tells, like, in the back of the book, where it goes to the sources, look at that, because it tells like where the stories came from, different names and different versions of that story, because a lot of them are like folk tales, and not folk tales, but like folk horror story. Like they've just been told for generations, kind of coming from anywhere in the world. And so, you know, it talks about some, like for instance, there's one called What Do You Come For? And it says, this is a retelling of a tale told in America and in the British Isles. See Bacon. I'm not even joking. It says see Bacon right there, Thomas. My Uncle Bacon. Uncle Bacon. Yeah, don't forget to like the video, guys. If you're enjoying this, like it. If you're not enjoying it, thumbs down it, but make sure to tell me why. A thumb is a thumb. I'll take it. So, yeah, it's really cool to find out, you know, where they came from, and also the story, What Do You Come For? There's a 19th century Scottish version called The Strange Visitor. And so there's just a bunch of information about these stories that we're probably not looking into. Now, there's a story in book 3 called The Trouble, and I think that's no. It's the one where they go to a hotel. Well, in the back of the book, it tells different versions of the story. So, you know, there's a lot in the back of book 3, okay? Now, if anybody has a story that they would like me to tell, I'll tell it. If not, I'm going to choose one. Let me see if anybody made a little story choice. Shadow Witch, I would be creeped out. Yeah. A story about making a spell. I don't think there's one of those in there. Do you remember the spider one? Oh yeah, and Brittany, the spider one appeared in the movie. So I wanted to bring that up. This past August, they just came out with a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark movie, inspired by all 3 of the books. There's multiple stories from the books in the movie, and if you haven't seen it, they have it on Amazon. What are we doing? Brittany, what are we doing? My head just went right out the window. I guess I could just look. The spider one, right. I think it's called the Red Splotch or something. If it's in part 2, I can't read it, but I think it's in part 3. Yeah, the spider's a good one. And you know, all 3 books have different vibes, to be quite honest. The stories go really well together in each of the 3. Okay, the red spot. Hey, 11:11, look at that. The red spot. While Ruth slept, a spider crawled across her face. Do you guys know why spiders crawl on our faces at nighttime? It's because our mouths have moisture, and they're looking for moisture. So apparently we eat like 15 spiders a year on average. I live in a spider palace, so I've probably eaten 15 since I've been here. But yeah, they just crawl right on down your throat, and then you end up swallowing them. It's true stuff. It's true stuff. But yeah, ew. But I mean, how many times have we woken up and going, oh crap, I'm eating a spider? Yeah, it just doesn't happen. So if we don't know about it, I guess it's just a little more B12. Alright, the red spot. While Ruth slept, a spider crawled across her face. It stopped for several minutes on her left cheek, then went on its way. What is that red spot on my cheek? She asked her mother the next morning. It looks like a spider bite, her mother said. It'll go away. Just don't scratch it. Soon the small red spot grew into a small red boil. Look at it now, Ruth said. It's getting bigger. It's sore. That sometimes happens, her mother said. It's coming to a head. In a few days, the boil was even larger. Look at it now, Ruth said. It hurts and it's ugly. We'll have the doctor look at it, her mother said. Maybe it's infected. But the doctor could not see Ruth until the next day. That night, Ruth took a hot bath. As she soaked herself, I'm assuming she put like a hot flannel on her face, the boil burst. Out poured a swarm of tiny spiders from their eggs their mother had laid in her cheek. And they did a really good job in the movie of doing that for the movie. Raise your hand if you saw the movie, y'all. The gangly moist creeper is a D&D creature. Yeah? There's some cool dragon inspired players in there too. I was excited to see that. So I will pick another story unless somebody has one that they would like. I really like this one. I'm going to read this one as long as it's not 4 pages. 1, 2. It is. I can't read it. That's okay. Most of these are pretty short. Okay, this one used to scare the garbage out of me when I was a little kid, and I think it has to do with just the picture all on its own. Like, I couldn't get that out of my head as a kid with nightmares. So let's do it. It's called The Dream, and it appears in the movie, but I haven't seen that far into the movie, but I saw it in the previews, and they recreated this picture in some computer animated graphics that is just like scare your socks off. Butterfly Magic saw the movie and loved it. Yeah, I just thought it was so well done, so perfect for children, just like these books are. They're not graphic, they're not violent, they're not sexual. It's just a really good all around. Let me see where we're at. 75. Okay. Okay. You remember that picture alone? Yeah, it is pretty freaky. So The Dream. Lucy Morgan was an artist. She had spent a week painting in a small country town and decided that the next day she would move on. She would go to a village called Kingston. But that night Lucy Morgan had a strange dream. She dreamt that she was walking up a dark, curved staircase and entered a bedroom. It was an ordinary room except for 2 things. The carpet was made of large squares that looked like trapdoors, scary, and each of the windows was fastened shut with big nails that stuck up out of the wood. In her dream, Lucy Morgan went to sleep in that bedroom. During the night, a woman with a pale face and black eyes and long black hair came into the room. She leaned over the bed and whispered, "This is an evil place. Flee while you can." When the woman touched her arm to hurry her along, Lucy Morgan awakened from her dream with a shriek. She lay awake the rest of the night trembling. In the morning, she told her landlady that she had decided not to go to Kingston after all. "I can't tell you why," she said, "but I just can't bring myself to go there." "Then why don't you go to Dorset?" the landlady said. "It's a pretty town and it isn't too far." So Lucy Morgan went to Dorset. Someone told her she could find a room and a house at the top of the hill. It was a pleasant-looking house, and the landlady there, a plump, motherly woman, was nice as could be. "Let's look at the room," she said. "I think that you will like it." They walked up a dark, curved staircase, just like the one in Lucy's dream. In these old houses, the staircases are all the same, Lucy thought. But when this is a classic story of a woman not listening to her intuition, or hearing it wrong, possibly. In these old houses, oh, here we go. But when the landlady opened the door to the bedroom, it was the room in her dream, with the same carpet that looked like trapdoors and the same windows fastened with big nails. That's scary. Why are the windows fastened with giant nails? This is just a coincidence, Lucy told herself. "How do you like it?" the landlady asked. "I'm not sure," she said. "Well, take your time," the landlady said. "I'll bring up some tea while you think about it." Lucy sat on the bed staring at the trapdoors and the big nails. Soon there was a knock on the door. "It's the landlady with tea," she thought. But it wasn't the landlady. It was the woman with the big pale face and the black eyes and the long black hair. Lucy Morgan grabbed her things and fled. It's not a terribly scary story. It's just something about it and something about this picture. It might, who knows, maybe it's a magic picture, like they drew it with the intention to just creep someone out. But yeah, they did good. That's I can't look anymore. Any other requests from these books? Because otherwise, maybe we should start talking about Dungeons and Dragons again. But if you have requests from the book, or you would like one more story, just say so and we'll do that. I know. Oh my god, no, Liz, no! It could have been a portmanteau film like Dr. Terror's House of Horror. Ooh, yeah! It does look just like the movie character, doesn't it, Shadow Witch? How does the movie tie them all in together? Well, basically, there's this book of scary stories, and it's like all of them in one. And it's really old, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Butterfly Magic, and everybody else who's seen it, I think when the kids read the book, the stories actually start to happen in the town. So once the book is read, these stories will start to manifest in the town. Harold, you know, the one with the scarecrow doll, that shows up in there, and the red spot, and you guys who have seen the full movie, go ahead and say all the other ones if you like. But it's just really well done. I was really, really impressed. But again, I have to finish it. So, I wanna maybe do... That's a good one. Ooh, the bus stop. I love the bus stop. So we'll kind of close the scary stories with the bus stop. Bus stop. The bus stop. Jen, I'll Skype you a photo of something for later. Their links could be of interest as well. Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, because you guys, I just thought before I did this video, because I've been getting into like dragons and stuff, that the only dragon book I had was Dungeons and Dragons, and I thought that'd be a really cool thing to talk about and to show you the pictures. But then we created this idea of doing a live game, and let's really try and think about pursuing it. But if you guys know of any other channels that do that, let me know, because not that I couldn't still do it, but I don't want to take somebody else's idea. Okay, so the bus stop. Oh, look, here's my dragon impression. I forgot. I never see it. It came out my nose. Ed Cox was at the bus stop. Ed Cox was driving home from work in a rainstorm. While he waited for a traffic light to change, he saw a young woman standing alone at a bus stop. She had no umbrella and was soaking wet. "Are you going toward Farmington?" he called. "Yes, I am," she said. "Would you like a ride home?" "I would," she said, and got in. "My name is Joanna Finney. Thank you for rescuing me." "I'm Ed Cox," he said, "and you're welcome." On the way, they talked and talked and talked. She told him about her family and her job and where she'd gone to school, and he told her about himself. Aw, the beginning of a perfect little love story. By the time they got to her house, the rain had stopped. "I'm glad it rained," Ed said. "Would you like to go out tomorrow after work?" "I'd love to," Joanna said. She asked him to meet her at the bus stop since it was near her office. They had such a good time. They went out many times after that. Always they would meet at the bus stop, and off they would go. Ed liked her more each time he saw her. That's so sweet. But one night when they had a date to go out, Joanna did not appear. Ed waited at the bus stop for almost an hour. Maybe something is wrong, he thought. Well, obviously something wrong, Ed. She didn't show up, man. Maybe. Maybe something is wrong, he thought, and he drove to her house in Farmington. An older woman came to the door. "I'm Ed Cox," he said. "Maybe Joanna has told you about me. I had a date with her tonight. We were supposed to meet at the bus stop near her office, but she didn't show up. Is she all right?" The woman looked at him as if he had said something strange. "I am Joanna's mother," she said slowly. "Joanna isn't here now, but why don't you come in?" Ed pointed at a picture on the mantel. "That looks just like her," he said. "It did once," her mother replied, "but that picture was taken when she was your age, about 20 years ago. A few days later, she was waiting at the bus stop in the rain, and a car hit her and she was killed. Chills. You were dating a ghost. And where did she go, though? That's what I want to know. Hey, Supernatural Lost Adventure. Nice to see you. Welcome. So let's talk about that story, and let's talk about what we think. Where did Joanna go? Because we know he was dating a ghost. Okay, that's fine. But where did she go? Why didn't she show up? You know, did she want... Maybe she wanted him to know, and that was the only way she could figure out to tell him, was to not tell him. I know that a lot of us have taken that avenue before. It's not the best one, but it works. So those were our scary stories. I love reading to you guys. It's so fun, especially in short little bursts and stuff. That's just good times. I love analyzing. I love, you know, obviously if I love fan fiction, I love analyzing, and I love trying to figure out, yeah, what happened to her? Did she, maybe he was a bad kisser, and she was like, oh, that's just not going to work. We don't know. We don't know. And that's why I really like these stories, too, is because they just leave you in that psychological, like head F, you know? I love that. So, I'll talk D&D for a little bit. And if you guys play D&D, I want to know what your character is. If you have more than one character, I want to know what your characters are. Melinda Van Dyke, you got my message. I'm on live. Hey, how are you? Great to see you. I'm sorry you missed the live earlier, but don't worry. It's recorded, so you can watch it anytime you like. Oh, I forgot to put on my gloves. Can I put on my gloves? Hold on a minute. Where's the other one? Can't put on one glove. I'm not Tito. Or Michael. Where's the other glove? Oh well. Wasn't meant to be. It's somewhere in this room. I do like my fingerless gloves though. And you did already. So good to see you. So good to see you too. Yep, Thomas, I got your messages. I'll check them when we're done, and I really, really appreciate you helping me with that. Thank you so much. So, let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons now. Woohoo! Dungeons and Dragons! So, on a whim, just thought about showing you guys this book and talking about D&D and seeing if you guys ever play, and now we're talking about doing a live online campaign with me as the Dungeon Master and y'all having your characters. So, you know, this is something that could get really fun, and we could get a whole new group of people on the channel, which is always really fun, as long as they're good folks. Never played? Yeah, I've never played either. I have built my character my whole life. I've been invited to like, when people do D&D, they get like sometimes like 15 people together, and then they do it over like a 3-day weekend, and they're like campaign, you know? I mean, that to me just sounds like so much fun, because it's not a video game. You're not looking at a screen. It's old school. You have paper and pencil. You got 20-sided dice. You got fantasy elements, creatures and characters and everything, and I just fascinated by it. So the artwork in here is excellent. Throughout the entire book, it's just really good. The introduction talks about the world of adventure, how to use the book, how to play adventures, and apparently, you know, if you build a character, you do need to get this book. But if there's people that, you know, are in the same like group of friends, you guys can share one book since they're kind of expensive. Thomas says, I always wanted to do a human warrior in a heavy armor that shouts a lot. A bit barbarian-ish. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like something that would be fitting for you, Thomas. I really enjoyed the video that you did, Thomas, where you opened Tangerine Layla's stuff. Next time you see Tangerine Layla, because I haven't seen her in a long time, please give her a kiss and a hug for me, okay? And here's the Barbarian, Thomas, page 46. Let's look at the Barbarian, since Thomas brought it up. Ah, yeah. Dude, it does kind of look like you. Right? Doesn't it look a little bit like you, Thomas? I love it. Good stuff. So this is the barbarian. And it's cool because when you're deciding what character you want, there's a chart here. And within the chart, it says stuff that will help you decide. So it's like, you have all these proficiency points, which I don't understand yet. Okay, so I'm going to learn about points and how all that works. But you have different points for all different kinds of stuff. Like, for instance, on the barbarian, the one that we're reading right now, there's a feature, like his first feature, the barbarian's first feature is rage, unarmored defense. Rage and unarmored defense. His second feature is a reckless attack and a danger sense. Third is primal path. Fourth is ability score improvement. Fifth is extra attack, fast movement. Sixth is path feature. Feral instinct, ability score improvement. Brutal critical, 1 die. Path feature, relentless rage, ability score. It keeps going down, but you read and it will tell you all about the character and the characteristics of that character. And then you decide, after you've read through the whole book, like which one you jive with most, or which one you want to use. And you can create as many characters as you want. That's a really beautiful thing too. But it's always good to just start with one that is kind of like really bonds with what you like to do in your own life. I've found. Can you have pets, Kitty, in this book? Yeah, so like when I'm going to talk to you about the wood elf right now because that is the character that I chose. Okay, so let me kind of go through and show you. I'm just going to do a quick and show you all the characters. So you have to choose a race. And when you choose a race, that means that, like, humans are the most common people in the worlds of D&D, but they live in and work alongside dwarves, elves, halflings, and countless other fantastic species. Your character belongs to one of these people. Not every intelligent race of the multiverse is appropriate for a player-controlled adventurer. Dwarves, elves, halflings, and humans are the most common races to produce the sort of adventurers who make up typical parties. Dragonborn, gnomes, half-elves, half-orcs, and tieflings are less common as adventurers. So it'll make sense once you really start to read this book. It's not a terribly big book, but it's terribly interesting. So let me say that that's what the races thing means, and it doesn't mean anything like un-PC, really. So here we have the dwarf. Okay, that's a character, is the dwarf. And the elf. And while we're on the elf, I'm just going to go ahead and read a little bit of it to you. Because I want you to get an idea of how this works, okay? So we're going to talk about the elf. The elf is slender and graceful. A timeless perspective. Elves can live well over 700 years, giving them a broad perspective on events that might trouble the shorter-lived races more deeply. They are often amused than excited and more likely to be curious than greedy. So you just, as you're reading along, you're trying to figure out, you know, is this sounding like me? Is this sounding like the character that I want to become? And you know what's also a cool way to go about this is to draw your character before you read the book. Draw a character you think you want to have, and then evolve it into one of these. But as my brother says, you always want to draw your character, even if you cannot draw. Alright. Hidden woodland realms. Most elves dwell in the small forest villages hidden among the trees. Elves hunt game, gather food, and grow vegetables, and their skill and magic allow them to support themselves without the need for clearing and plowing land. They're talented artisans, crafting finely worked clothes and art objects. Their contact with outsiders is usually limited, though a few elves make good living by tradition crafted items for metals, so they're metalsmiths as well. And as you read along, you can really see if it's blending with you. elf traits. And then there's different elves. There's the high elf, and I know there's a wood elf because that's mine. And then there's a dark elf or a drow. And there's just some beautiful, beautiful pictures in here. Here's a halfling. This is a human. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a human before, but that's one. There are models that you can get, Thomas. That's pretty amazing. Here's a dragonborn, which I'm excited to look at this character, because the whole reason I took the book out was because I've been thinking about dragons. I think druids could shapeshift into an animal. Right! Oh, right! The druid elves are the ones that can shapeshift into an animal. No, I think it's the wood elf, because I think that's why I picked it. Hold on, Thomas. Let's find out. Okay. So... So the wood elf. As a wood elf, you have keen senses and intuition. And your fleet feet carry you quickly and stealthily through your native forest. This category includes the wild elves, or the Graugok, of Greyhawk, and the Catatensi of Dragonlace, as well as the races called Wood Elves in Greyhawk and the Forgotten Realms. In Forian, Wood Elves, who are also called Wild Elves, Green Elves, or Forest Elves, are reclusive and distrusting to non-elves. Sounds like me. Wood Elves' skin tends to be copperish in hue, sometimes with traces of green. Their hair tends to be brown or black, but it occasionally blonde or copper colored. Their eyes are green, brown, or hazel. And then it tells like their ability scores and their fleet on foot. So an elf can have the walking speed to increase 35 feet. So all of this means stuff, you know, like if in your mind you're like, I want my talent to be running fast, well, you're going to want to pick a character that just runs fast. So, and that will happen as you read through the book and pick what you want. So, next I'd like to say about the Wood Elf Masks of the Wild. You can attempt to hide even when you are only lightly obscured by foliage, heavy rain, falling snow, mist, and other natural phenomena. Now, when we were talking about the Dark Elf, or the Drow, which I believe is this, then it's descended from an earlier subrace of elves. The Drow were banished from the surface world for following the goddess Lolith, not Lilith, Lolith, down the path of evil. Okay, it's funny. Now they have built their own civilization in the depths of the Underdark, patterned after the Way of Lolth. Also called Dark Elves, the Drow have skin that resembles charcoal or obsidian. Oh, beautiful. As well as a stark white and pale yellow hair. They commonly have very pale eyes, shades of lilac, silver, pink, red, blue. Wow. They tend to be smaller and thinner than most elves. Drow adventurers are rare. Check your dungeon master to see if you can play one. And that's the other thing. Depending on your skill level, you might not be able to play a certain character. It's all up to the dungeon master. Anybody can play at my game. If I do become a dungeon master, anybody could play. But how fun would it be to get dressed up once a week and play D&D live? I really think that would be something, y'all. So continuing on the Drow, I'm not finding where it talks about the animal stuff. Because that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this. Elves take up adventuring in the Wonderlist. I don't know, Thomas. But when I find it, I sure will tell everybody. So, let's get back. We left off at human, I believe. Nope, we did Dragonborn. Okay, here's the gnome. Here's the gnome. And we have half-elves, so that is a half-elf, half-human. we have half orc. It's like a, I don't know how to explain it. It's an orc though. And then we have the tiefling, which is a Catwoman, which is awesome. This was the character I almost was, but then I didn't. This is a really cool character, and I really want one of these in my campaign. Like, I would love to have a player do this in my campaign. So if anybody was thinking tiefling looks cool, you're right. It's a really cool character. So then it goes into chapter 3, classes. There's different classes, and that's where we start, like the barbarian. Jen, look in the career bits like druid and wizard and sorcerer. Okay. Here's a bard. Just really beautiful pictures. And the stories within are really beautiful too. I love it. And it's all related to magic, which is really cool. And then we have the cleric. Looks kind of like a Viking. Really, Uncle Badger? That's amazing. Okay, next we have druid. Really pretty, huh? He's got a big staff he carries, the druid. Here's a female druid, and look at her with her horns. It's awesome. She's riding a tiger. Of course she is. Ride the tiger. We have fighter. We have monk. Yep, you can be a monk in D&D. You sure can. You can be a monk. We've got paladin, which is kind of looks like the Thing, if you know what the Thing is. This is paladin. And we've got ranger. Check thrift books for these, you guys. I've never checked before, but that would be a good outlet to possibly pay a little bit less, because they're $50. Rogue. Sorcerer. Paris, hi. Yeah, they do look badass. That's what made me so excited to play. Like, be a badass in your mind and play this game. It's such cool stuff. Oh, look, I love this. Raw magic. The sorcerer. Raw magic. Good stuff. Moving along. We've got warlocks. Hey, Queen Ashindi, good to see you. We've got warlocks. We've got wizards. Now this is chapter 4, personality and background. Thomas, is this where you're saying that that might come in about the classifications, and or not classifications, but talking more about the elves? So chapter 4, personality and background. Oh yeah, there's Dwarvish alphabets and Elvish alphabets. It's pretty cool. It's like learning Klingon in a way, I guess. I guess people really do learn Klingon. There's charlatans, entertainers, guild artisans, hermits. Here's a hermit. Nobles, sages. Looks like a sage to me. Sailors. No, there's no picture for it. Soldiers. And chapter 5 is about equipment, and you're going to start understanding coinage and wealth, and heavy armor, light armor, medium armor, armors and shields, selling treasure, which is always a fun one. Like whenever I listen to a D&D game, I always love to hear the treasure bits. Bunch of different weapons that you can choose from to carry. I mean, this is really fun stuff, you guys. You get to just, like, I don't know. I don't think that one person could design a character exactly like anyone else because there's so many choices that you can make along the way, which is really something. You know, so talking about mounts and vehicles, there's just all kinds of fun stuff in this book. So I'm excited for, and if those of you already have this book, you have your character, everything like that, after the video's over, please type in a message in the comments saying, I want to play this game and my character is this. Or I want to play this game, or I want to participate and I have 2 or 3 characters and they are this. And I would like to know your years of experience if you want to share it, stuff like that, because there's a lot that I can learn from y'all. And if somebody else with a YouTube channel wants to do this, go ahead. It just sounds like fun. So chapter 6 is about customization options, multi-classing, hit points and hit dice, proficiency bonuses, all that stuff you have to learn. Look at this. Such a cool picture. Feats, class features, pact magic, inspiring leaders, grapplers, dungeon delvers. I mean, there's just, it's a lot, but we're going to have fun with it. Really beautiful art in through here. Okay, I'm really trying to find that place that Thomas has been talking about. Chapter 7 is using ability scores. Chapter 8 is adventuring. So it talks about time and movement and speed and your travel pace. What kind of activities you can do while traveling. The environment, social interaction. Oh, here's another good picture. Combat, so how to actually have duels. That's chapter 9. So it's just really, really, really fun stuff, you guys. Really fun stuff. For years and years, I've watched my brother play, even when I was a little kid. So I went to the back, and there's a bunch of spells. Like, if you're a ranger, here's the spells you can do. If you're a sorcerer, here's the spells you can do. So that's pretty cool. So, especially since we actually do spells, like most of us that are here on this channel, you're going to want to go to chapter 11 spells, which is on page 207. Look at this dragon picture. Ah! So you're going to want to go look at spells and see what spells you can cast, because that's going to be something that comes naturally to you anyway and into your brain, like, oh, in real life I would cast a spell for that. So check and see which spells you can do, because that might be a big defining factor on whether you want to keep that character or not. Let's see if I can do elf. Where's elf? It's not elf. Bird. So, yes, please let me know if you do want to participate in this, because it could be something really great, and let's see if it does turn out to be something really great. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. So, hey Jenna, it's so great to see you. Welcome. I think now that we're done talking D&D, we maybe could tell 1 or 2 more little stories. So let's do that. Don't get scared. Yeah, it's been a while, Jenna. So nice to see you. Welcome back. Everybody welcome Jenna back. Okay, so I wanted to read The Babysitter, and for a couple of reasons. But the picture is creepy. It's creepy. Look at the baby's face. It's not supposed to be a baby doll. That's supposed to be a baby. And why does it look like a tiny old woman holding a baby? This looks like an old woman's head on a child's body. Like, they're doing... Oh, is he back there? Hi, Otis! Say hi, buddy! So yes, it totally looks like an old person's head on a child's body, and that always, you know, freaked me out a little bit. So let's read The Babysitter. Something there. Scroll up, you wrote loads. Okay, sorry, hon. Jen, look at the classes in detail for stuff about animal companions and stuff. Okay, cool. Okay, let's read what Thomas says. No, with the classes that you just passed, it should say about getting animals and things. Okay, rather than that being races like... Right, I think that too, our own characters for our game. Hey Otis, Melinda said hi, and Kitty said hi, and everybody else says hi too, but yes. Okay. The Babysitter. It was 9 o'clock in the evening. Everybody was sitting on the couch in front of the TV. There were Richard, Brian, Jenny, and Doreen, the babysitter. The telephone rang. Maybe it's your mother, said Doreen. She picked up the phone. Before she could say a word, the man laughed hysterically and hung up. Who was it? Asked Richard. Some nut, said Doreen. What did I miss? At about 9:30, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. It was the man who had called before. I'll be there soon, he said, and he laughed and hung up. Come here, bud. The phone rang again. Hello, she said. It was the same man. 1 more hour, he said, and he laughed and hung up. What did he say? He said 1 more hour. What does that mean? Asked Jenny. Don't worry, said Doreen. It's somebody fooling around. I'm scared, said Jenny. Yeah, she is the only one talking sense, this Jenny. Hilarious. About 10:30, the telephone rang once more. When Doreen picked it up, the man said, pretty soon now, and then he laughed. Why are you doing this? Doreen screamed, and he hung up. Was it that guy again? Asked Brian. Yes, said Doreen. I'm going to call the operator and complain. The operator told her to call back if it happened again, and she would try to trace the call. At 11 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. Very soon now, the man said, and he laughed and hung up. Doreen called the operator. Almost at once, she called back. That person is calling from a telephone upstairs. Chills. She said, you'd better leave. I'll call the police. Ugh. Just then, a door upstairs opened. A man they had never seen before started down the stairs toward them. As they ran from the house, he was smiling in a very strange way. A few minutes later, the police found him and arrested him. Okay, what do we think he was doing up there? That's what I want to know. What do we think he was doing? No, you're going to burn your whiskers, Bubs. Don't do that. If he tries to smell the candle and his whiskers get burned, he, for 2 days, walks into walls because his balance is all off. It's so sad. So, what was that guy doing up there, you know? I had a really lovely live stream with you guys both yesterday and today, and then today again. And I want to thank everybody for coming and joining. I want to thank everybody for welcoming new people to the channel and saying hello. It's amazing when you come to a channel in a live stream and not only the person who's doing the live stream talks back to you, but everyone in the chat talks back to you and you're brand new. That's what makes it hard for a lot of people to get into groups because it feels very cliquey. I could go ahead and list off a bunch of ones that I think are very cliquey and is kind of a reason why, well, whatever, but there's a group in the magic community who doesn't like me. That's fine. It's gonna happen, you know. But please stop talking crap about me. I would appreciate if you stop talking crap about me on your channel. Stop it. Thank you. Yeah, everybody have a wonderful evening, and if I don't see you later today, because I think I'm done for the day, I will see you tomorrow. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful night. Get into D&D. Get that book. Check out thrift books. And when you get that book, you want to get the most updated one. Because like every year, every other year, every third year, they kind of like revise it. Apparently you want to get the newest one. But if it's different than this, you could just get this one and we could play with this one. It don't matter. Yeah, their last. Yeah. If I was a smaller person, I would go ahead and say their name like they're saying mine, but I'm just not going to do that because it's not my style. Not my style. All right, guys. Love you. Have a beautiful day. Peace.